Welcome back to the Flyers Nitty Gritty podcast, getting gritty with it with your host, Yariv, Wolok, and my returning guest and my friend, Chris Maher. How you doing, buddy? Chris, welcome back to the podcast.
What's up, man? Thank you for having me on. Man, it's been a while. Last time I was on with Jim, right?
Is that how long it's been? Yeah, that was not long ago, right? That was like...
No, it wasn't too long ago. I think it was this month still, I think.
I have no idea. I've lost. No, it's beginning of March. It's definitely not this month.
Oh,
but
yeah, right.
Yeah. There's no way. But shows you that time flies, and this is a different time. But we have plenty to talk about, though, and luckily nobody else is here to interrupt because I got some stuff to rant about.
We kind of already had this conversation.
Yeah, no, I think we got some venting to do on this one. And before we do, and before I get started, let's just give a shout out to our sponsor, Jim's Steaks on South. Hook up with Jim's. They are Flyers fans. I brought this up obviously every goddamn time, but that is why I love them. I love that they're Flyers fans. They wanted to work with us because they're Flyers fans. I am on a low carb diet. If you watch other stuff, you see that stuff. I still eat cheesesteaks. I eat the meat. Order cheesesteaks. Keep these businesses going. They've been around for a while. They're obviously one of the best. And the fact they support the Flyers, I mean, you know, you walk into that place. Chris, I don't know if you've been to Jim's, but I mean, you'll see there are Flyers lined up in pictures all across that place. So keep that place alive, and definitely keep buying from Jim's. All right, let's talk about it. The Flyers are 11-5-3 off a recent loss to the beloved, no, the hated, the locally hated Pittsburgh Penguins, and they do it without Sidney Crosby. They come in, they beat the Flyers 5-2 in a game where I would say the Flyers did not put their best effort, but not necessarily that they played like a terrible 60 minutes, but they blew the game essentially within a 10-minute window. But it was the second period that killed them. The responses have been interesting. Chris, how do you feel? I mean, we talked obviously a little bit during. How do you feel about the loss? How do you feel about the game overall? Do you think it's a reflection of the way the team plays? But what did you think about the game first? And then we'll go into that.
I kind of thought that game was... it's small thing. It's the little things. I mean, we've said this all year. It's little things that are still hurting them at times. And you had a good first period where you start off, you get 2 power plays, can't get really much going on those. And then you kind of carry the momentum a little bit. I think shots were 12-5 after the first. So they were on their way to getting a high shot game. And this was their, game where they had the most shots on net this year, which, still was irrelevant, and I'll get to that in a minute.
Pull up the stats here, actually. Go ahead. Go ahead. Keep going.
Second period was, you scored. All right, you take a penalty late with 15 seconds left because you're stuck in your own zone and you had a handful of turnovers. Take a penalty. It's a minute 45 going into the second, and you kill that off, and you get momentum right out of the box because you score. You get a goal. Really nice passing play, Coots to Farabee, and he scores slam dunk. It's 1-0. Well, then it just like went away. Like it just felt like they had one bad play. Ghost turns it over. He knew he messed up. They score. Minutes later, Flyers take a stupid penalty. Fourth line takes a dumb penalty. It's 2-1. Really nice passing play on that goal. And then 2 defensemen in front just literally missed Gensel and Rust in front of the net, and they score again. And Rust just picks up the garbage and scores. It's 3-1. It's like, what the hell? It felt like for those, as you said, that 10-minute window, that 8 to 10 minutes, they just forgot how to play hockey for the most part. And it hurt them. And, you're down 3-1 at that point, and you battle back. In the third, you get a goal there, and then minutes later, it's 4-2.
It's an intensity level, right? You could feel it. Like they took their foot off the pedal. They weren't necessarily playing poorly, but Pittsburgh, who's kind of been chasing, and we weren't, right? We're coming off 2 games where we played perfect hockey against a team that wasn't playing well. And Jamie brought this up, without Crosby or without Malkin, the Pittsburgh Penguins do tend to step up other players in their lineup. I mean, they worked hard. They worked hard in that game. Yeah,
Jamie told me something on the phone a little bit ago that I think Malkin has like 41 points in I think 20-something games without Crosby or something. Something like that. Like he steps up a lot. And he only had 1 assist, but he was, the Flyers couldn't handle him.
It still counts.
Yeah.
I will say this. So let's go through some of the stats. The Flyers have 42 shots to Penguins 27. Faceoffs were 62% to Penguins 38. Flyers had 5 power plays were 0 for 5.
0 for 5. Yeah.
0 for 5 on the power play. They were 3 for 1 on the PK.
That's a difference maker too.
It's a humongous, dude.
It's because you started the third period. Started the third period with 2 straight power plays
and didn't get anything on it.
The first one that carried over into the period because they had one that was called Malkin got a trip with 14 seconds left, carried over. They didn't even get set up in the zone. They spent 40 of the minute 46 in their own zone trying to get up the ice.
Yeah, the power play, it's, again, I think the penalty kill is in a worse situation this year than the power play. I'll make that clear. Having said that, the penalty kill improved dramatically last year. I give them the benefit of the doubt because they lost Niskanen. I want to see if they can work their way out of it. It hasn't been great. And
recently, the penalty, and to your point, I didn't mean to cut you off. The PK has been better recently. I think they're 1 for 9. They've given up 1 power play goal.
They've been slowly progressing, but they still had their lulls. Now, the power play has a night here and there where it looks good, okay? But I've seen 0 progress over the past 2 years. And that's where my concern comes is I haven't seen Therrien's system come into play and improve anything. Like, I feel like what's happening with the power play is the default with the level of talent that you have available. There's an immense amount of talent on this power play. I don't think a pure shooter is required to have a great power play. In fact, I know they're not because we didn't have one when we were top 3 power play for 5 years. Go ahead, Chris.
I'll say one thing. They don't need a shooter. They need someone on this power play to be the shooter. Like, they have way too many guys and way too much talent for that power play to be like, 26th in the league or something like that?
Yeah.
Or that might be the penalty kill. I might be getting that mixed up, but still, like, they need to set it up where I personally like goes to the point. I always have, because I just like him firing away.
Yeah.
And I think that's what they need. I think he's probably
it's happening.
Yeah. And it's been one thing they've seen. The one thing that I've liked about the power play recently is it's getting momentum because when they're set up, they do good things with it, but the issue is they can't get set up. But if they win the face-off in the offensive zone, then they've been getting that cross-seam pass through the middle of the ice, and they had a play last night where I think Voracek sent it over to Patrick, back to Provorov at the point, and it opened up a lane for Provorov to shoot. And they almost scored. It tipped, it just went just past the post.
Yeah.
They had a couple tries like that where they had some setups in the zone, but again, I just hate how they have to be so perfect. And it's always has to be a drop pass to Giroux to come into the zone. Like, just take it up. Because there was an instance where, like, Farabee did that, right? He takes it up. I'm like, okay, that's fine. He dumps it. Well, everybody's just standing there. And the Penguins just send it right back down. It's like...
There's a lot of those. Yeah. Well, that's kind of actually what I wanted to say is that I don't know if you can even, like, pick on one player or one thing.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
It's really... Again, I'm not picking on Michel Therrien here as a coach overall. I'm not a humongous Therrien fan, but I'm not saying he's a bad coach. But I'm going to rip him right now. And I've been saying this for a while. It is very clear to me that on our power play, there are very little defined roles and there's very little consistency with the coaching. Every single game, there are different lines that go out. There are different combinations. I understand this. Again, the power play is about perfect execution. And that's where I'm kind of looking at it. We're like, okay, I would almost go back to the drawing board. I go, people talking about Joey Mullen. That power play was incredibly predictable. It still dominated. Everybody knew
it was the same thing every time,
and it still worked. So my point is that we don't have to focus so much on, like, let's get as most creative as possible. I don't really care. I notice, like, little times where I see Patrick trying to get a shot off and he doesn't know if he's the shooter and the other person doesn't know if he's the shooter and nobody's on their offhand. And then you put somebody on their offhand and they score. And I look at these decisions and again, I'm not ripping on him because I don't think the power play is terrible because there's times where it works, but I think it's working more because 5-on-5 works, that they're just a good team.
Yeah,
I don't see an actual power play.
That power play went 2 for 8 against the Rangers that last game they played last Wednesday. 2 for 8, right?
That's not bad.
Well, it actually was 2 for 7 because there was a penalty.
That's not bad at all.
With like 5 seconds left in the third, so pretty much 2 for 7.
You're talking about like 40% or 30%.
Yeah, but but that was like one of the best nights of their power play for the season. You know how many shots they had that night? I think they had almost 20 shots on the power play, just the power play alone.
Yeah,
I think they had 39 that game. or 38, something like that.
If I remember, it was Gorgiev, right? Was it Gorgiev or no?
Shesterkin was in that.
Shesterkin, but he played really well.
Yeah, he had a handful. Yeah, he had a lot of good saves.
I mean, we should have probably dominated.
They had the 2 power play goals from JVR, and
he stole a couple.
Ghost.
Yeah, he's a good goalie, but he stole a couple, and
he did.
I'm okay with that. That's what I was saying. If you look at the numbers from the power play, they're actually not that bad. But that's how I know it's not a talent issue and it's a systems issue, because the consistency is gone. The next night we're 0-5. Yeah. And that's my point, is like, I get it that power play struggle, but it's happening all the time. Like, one night the power play works, the next night it's almost like the adjustments to the systems, they only work sometimes.
Yeah.
And it's like,
I don't understand the offhand thing. Like there was like you were saying, like with the offhand.
Well, it was a risk.
Yeah, but like
there are benefits and risks to both.
Yeah. And Patrick's on that side.
The right.
Like, if he is, as you said, like, he doesn't know if he's the shooter. And there was an instance last night where he shot the puck, it deflected. And if there was a righty in Voracek's spot, clear one-timer for a goal. But Jake's in no position to make a play because he's left-handed. And what happened? The Penguins get it. They send it right down. Like, that's why I don't like that.
Where was Jake at the time? Are you saying Jake was where he usually is?
Jake was he was in Giroux's normal spot.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, yes, we have a lot of those problems where, again, for 5-on-5 play, it makes sense.
Yeah.
It does.
Power play, no.
Well, it does make sense. Look, there's a risk reward, but I don't disagree with you. I'm agreeing with you, but there is a risk reward. Like, I know why they do that. You know, you want the guy on his offhand facing the net. You think theoretically you just want him to get the shot through. The bangers, you know, that's the offhand. That's you got your Ghost, you got your Gustafson, right? We saw them do that too the other night, right? So there are benefits to it, but if you get caught on the offhand, you know what I mean? It's harder for you to get up the boards. The simple plays are harder.
Exactly. So, because again, we saw last year with Giroux, he could only make the
exactly
play because he was the only thing he had was a pass because he had no other option.
Well, honestly, in my thought, it sounds ridiculous. I was like, I'd rather just have the puck on Giroux's stick almost the entire time, just playing catch.
Why can't he just be the shooter? Is my thing. Like, why can't they just have him shoot the puck, have Ghost at the point, Jake in his spot, Coots in the middle, and JVR in front of the net?
Well, that's my point. The roles are very versatile on the power play. If you look at the way like everything is designed, that you have freedom as a player, and I'm sure to some extent they like that, right? Because you give players options. But I'm actually saying to cut all that out. I'm saying we need to remove those options. I want to get more systematic. I want to get robotic with the power play. They have good puck movement. Look, you'll see it every now and then. The puck movement is fantastic.
Yeah.
Like the other night when we were playing Buffalo,
it even looked good at times last night. They just couldn't score.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. It's not a humongous issue.
No.
Like, it's not like Michel Therrien's going to get fired. But I'm saying this is that I have not seen any progress from the time that he got here. Mike Yeo, he turned that PK around in 1 year. Mm-hmm. Yes, we had Niskanen, but I think I want to see what he can do.
I think the PK is going to work itself out too.
I think so too. I think it actually slowly is. I think the power play, every time we see it take a step forward, it takes a step back, and then it
takes 2 steps back. It seems like
it just seems like we never actually move forward.
Yeah.
Like, when did it get better? When has it gotten better since Terry got here? It didn't even get worse either, though.
No, it pretty much stayed the same.
That's my point.
Yeah.
Nothing happened. Nothing happened. So I feel stagnant by it, you know? I feel stagnant by it. So I'm not that frustrated to the point where I'm like, I'm done with him, but I still look at the power play as something that needs to be more well-defined. And right now there is no top unit, and that is very clear at all.
They don't even know what defenseman they'll use.
Yeah.
They have 3 defensemen. Provorov, Ghost, Gus. Who do you use? Like,
I mean, that doesn't also include Sanheim, who also is capable of being on there. And probably
Myers can even play power play if they need to. I don't even think he's got a shot at it this year. I think it's been all lefties.
And yeah. I don't know what to make of the power play right now. I don't either. So again,
there's so many things we could sit here. I mean, we could probably literally do like a whole episode just on the power play.
Yeah.
You know? I don't know. I feel like the one thing that I want them that they honestly could do that they did last year that worked was the double net front. They could go back to that where they had JVR in front of the net and connecting kind of on the side, like where Briere used to go.
Yeah.
they could do that again. I don't know.
They could. I'm open to anything at this point. My whole thing is, and I've said,
as long as it works,
Well, I don't think that we're utilizing Giroux enough on the power play.
I don't either.
I appreciate that we have other talent. I'm not saying that the other people can't do great jobs on the power play. Like, I have one of the best power play players of all time. It's almost like I have Ovechkin and I'm not lining him up for the one-timers. It's like, it doesn't make sense. Like, give him the puck.
Yeah.
Have him quarterback that power play. He should be the first man out there on that power play. We're not using him that way. And I can appreciate from one aspect, he spreads the wealth. Other guys are playing well, but I want a dominant power play. And it's not. It's not been dominant. So at least that's how I see it.
Yeah, I agree. I think for the most part, if they can kind of, again, it's had its squirts though. And I think recently it's looked good, but like there was times in some of those Buffalo games where like they had really good power plays, and then the next one they did nothing with it. Right,
and that's kind of what bothers me. There's too much of that. There's too much of a power play just
consistent
completely ineffective. It happens, but I feel like it's happening too much. And the reason we make up for it is because of talent, and not, like I said, not system. More because we're getting by on the players that we have available, which
and
we
they're able to score 5-on-5.
We have 2 number 1 power plays. Like, it's not a question to me why they're doing it. I'm like, yeah, there's enough good players. You can make 2 top units with evenly distributed talent, but I don't really care. I want 1 unit that dominates. Yeah. I prefer 1 unit that dominates rather than 2 units.
That's why I want them just to load up one of them. I don't care how you do the second one.
What is the
I don't care.
There is no loading.
My personal one, if they were to do it, would be G in his spot, Ghost at the point, Coots in the middle, Jake in his spot, and JVR in front of the net. All they got to do.
Okay.
That's how I see it. Because if they do that, you just go back to the things you used to do. Like,
yeah, but they weren't here. They weren't here for that. We were here for that. Michel Therrien was not here for those days, right?
I guess. I mean, the players were.
Right, but the coaches weren't. So you're saying go to what you used to do. He didn't used to do that.
Yeah. I don't know. I wish they would just – if G could play a little lower in the zone and be able to utilize himself more, where he's maybe more open for a shot, because I think there's a lot of times where it looks like he's got a shot lane, but he doesn't, just because of where he is. I don't know. I think there's so many things we could say. I mean, I don't mind Gustafsson either. I like them using the 2 defensemen. I think that's fine, to be honest. I don't know. I feel like if they were to do any pair of defensemen, who would you want to say
on the power play?
Yeah,
I wouldn't want to see 2 defensemen on the power play, but it would be Provorov and Ghost, and I would put Ghost along the half walls, and then I would put Provorov on the point. To make sure to cover for those back checks. I would actually still do that. I would even compare. I've never heard anybody say this outside of myself, but I would put Jake Voracek in the middle. I don't mind that, actually. He's big, he's strong, he never has an opportunity there at all.
I feel like he gets hit pucks too.
He's got a great shot, but rarely is able to get it off the way we want it to. So maybe he can do it from the slot, and he's mean, he's nasty, and I think he'll fight for that space. We never tried it.
He's always been pass first on that too with the power play because of the way they used to run it.
And it's also understandable. He's also one of the best passers on the team. This guy is an elite playmaker, despite what other people might say. The numbers are very clear. You can argue, but then you're actually putting down other players that you consider better than him who have worse numbers. So the thing you got to realize with this guy is that he has everything, though, right? Jake Voracek has everything. So if I ask him to be a shooter in the slot, like Sean Couturier is also not a sniper,
They've used it where they could score goals with shooting in the slot.
I honestly, maybe the future role with that spot belongs to Farabee. It's possible. He's a little small for it right now. But they gave it to TK at 1.2, I think.
Frost at some point.
I see, man, dude, the Frost thing is tough because I don't even know what role he's going to take at this point. We lost for the entire year now, right? So I don't know. I don't even know where's this roster going to be next year. We have no idea what's going to happen because I don't
even want to think about that.
Yeah, I don't want to start thinking about that. But I see Frost as more of a perimeter guy on the power play, but you might not be. I mean, you might not be wrong. He is a good shooter. I was just thinking about Farabee in this case. He's probably going to be the best shooter on the team. It's kind of happening. If people can see it, I've been saying it for a while. I've been calling him the next Gagne, a sniper, two-way guy. We're watching it. He's on the PK. He's on the top PK unit, right? But in case people aren't aware, this kid is how old? He is probably sure, this might not last. At the rate that he's going, aggressively, he's on his way to being a superstar.
He's got 10 goals already. He had 2 last night.
Superstar. If he continues to do this, the entire league is going to be talking about it. He's
already on a point per game pace out of that draft class.
Yes.
Yeah. And
nobody expected this. Nobody expected this level of production. Russ Cohen did. So he says.
I didn't expect him to be this hot at the start. I expected like a 40, 50-point year from him.
I thought 20 goals, 25.
I thought like 15 goals, like 20 assists range.
Yeah, pace-wise. I'm thinking 82-game season, but like
if it was an 82-game season, he'd be on pace for 43 goals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that you just said that. Yeah, that perspective for people.
Mm-hmm.
I not knocking Charlie O'Connor. You brought this up earlier, right? That I think Charlie tweeted something out about potentially bringing the top line. He tweeted
something about quote unquote spreading the wealth with that line. I'm thinking to myself, why? I said this to you earlier. There's that much talent where you don't have
the
to spread
wealth
anything.
Is spread.
The
wealth is spread, dude.
It's already spread.
Your top line
mix a couple guys here and there. Well, and you're fine.
Well, okay, and this is perspective and time. You can tell me it's a whole new season. I really don't care. Everybody wanted JVR gone a few months ago, and now you're spreading the wealth.
Same with Ghost, too.
Yeah. Farabee is a second-year player spreading the wealth. You have Voracek, TK. There's no spreading the wealth.
Hayes, Drew.
The rest of the guys have to figure it out. The team overall needs to play better. This isn't. It's just not. And not that I'm saying Charlie. I'm not trying to put words in Charlie's mouth. I'm not trying to pick on him because he's a smart guy. No. But it's just.
It's not against him.
No. I'm just. He's definitely not the only one saying it too. The wealth is there.
Oh yeah,
the talent is there. I understand the energy, the confidence, and all that. They need to work through it. I mean, if you think back to the Stanley Cup contender team, they put the 3 struggling players together to get themselves out of it. They put Hartnell, Briere, and Leno together, and all 3 of them were having down years until they met back up. So none of that is real. What we need to do, and I mean this. And I want to talk about the other point after, but what we need to do as a team is just unite. It's as simple as that. We were talking about this earlier on the phone call. It's important for people to recognize this. Just because you're seeing your team struggle or see them hit some pain points, it is no indication of the future, of what's going to happen, if they're going to win a cup. Anybody who's saying that, just stop listening to them. Because I can show you endless examples of how that's not true. They can come up with 1, I can come up with 1,000. And I mean this 100%. If you even look at the Stanley Cup champions of the past 2 years, if they did not struggle, they didn't go anywhere. So people need to recognize that. Just because you struggle, it's not a reason to panic.
Dude, you can say that about the last 4, 5, maybe 6 cup winners. Like the Kings, for how long they struggled, they won 2 cups. Chicago, how long they struggled, they were a dynasty, won 3 cups.
Boy, we're even talking the same season, though, right?
Yeah.
It was the same season.
No, but still,
the cup, 8, right? Mm-hmm. The 8th, LA won a cup, barely squeaked in. It doesn't have to be perfect.
Yeah, they were the 8th seed. They beat the President's Trophy team in 5 and 12.
It doesn't have to be perfect. It's not going to look like you think it is. You're not going to be able to predict it. And you're not going to tell me that a 22, 23, 24, 25-year-old guy, you know what he is.
I know.
There are so many endless examples.
We didn't even know what this team was last year until
and you brought that up
9-game winning streak. Yes. And then we didn't even know after, because with the 4-month playoff and everything, and they still struggled in the playoffs.
Right. Because they have to start over. It's a different time.
Yes.
It doesn't take away from the talent.
No.
It doesn't take away from the talent. Just because you don't look like the best team today doesn't mean you won't be the best team when it matters.
Exactly.
And I think
there's many teams that are surprising people right now, like Chicago, for example.
Who says they're going to surprise everybody for the whole season? And all these teams who have easier divisions and they're not struggling as much. Yeah. What happens when they do make the playoffs and they play Boston, who's played the best teams all year?
Toronto.
They're going to spank you.
Toronto.
Yeah, they're going to be ready for it.
Ones. Everybody's like, "Oh, the Leafs are so good." They're in the worst division possible.
Yes,
all of those teams from Edmonton to Ottawa suck. They're all very similar.
They are
very
all
similar. They lack depth. The Leafs have the best depth, probably the best goaltending.
Well, they're clear cut the best team. Yeah, they're clear. There's a large difference between them at this point and everybody else in that division. And I don't think they're a bad team. I'm not knocking the Leafs. But my point is they don't have the regular competition that the Flyers do, that people want to get upset about. Again, I don't think Buffalo is a bad team. People might be surprised by that statement. They might be playing poorly. But I think that situation is fixable. They have plenty of talent to be competitive. And they were. And don't tell me it's just, I do believe it's an ownership problem from what I could tell. It seems like a top-down problem. You brought Eric Stahl into that locker room and you have problems. You had Ryan Raleigh, you had to trade him. That you're talking about ownership. This is a top-down issue. Yeah. Multiple coaches over and over again. I heard Steve Dangle talking about that. I think they actually bring up a great point. When it's persistent and it's over and over again, then the fan base has a point. You know what I mean? Edmonton, they got replaced eventually.
It's been 10 years for the Sabres.
Yeah.
And everybody thought when they got Eichel was like, oh my God, we might be starting to go up again. And then it's been the same since.
Well, okay, so this is perfect actually. And the theme of this episode is, I'm going to name it this: don't panic. Stop panicking.
I've been saying it since
annoying.
The first game of the season.
I'll be honest with you, I don't care if people get upset. It's annoying. It's unnecessary and it's annoying and it's not a reflection of the truth. And yes, some people will want to sell it. Trade somebody. I know what this guy is. This guy's potential is clear to me now. This guy is not legit.
Defenseman, like what?
I'm double down. Carter Hart is the best goalie in the league. I'm going to do it again.
They lost the Lake Tahoe game, and there were people comparing him to Carson Wentz. What does that have anything to do with Carter Hart?
That is what we refer to as projection. That's what I talk about all the time, that people project. They project onto these athletes, and I find it very strange. I make mistakes with athletes. We all do. None of us are able to predict this stuff, but I don't give up on athletes. And that's the difference. I talk about it all the time. Do not bet against talent. I was not ready to throw away JVR. I was like, okay, it's going to be a tough contract to move. It's still a tough contract to move because the salary cap is an issue for everybody right now.
Yeah, the whole league.
But quite frankly, who's thinking about moving JVR?
No one. Why would they move him? He leads their team in points.
We saw somebody jump on Ghost after one trade. And again, it's just one person. I'm not picking on everybody. I know there are people there who love Ghost. But one play, that's it. It negates everything he's done, all the progress he's made. It's just I can't understand why we fall back into these patterns.
One of my recent comments on my last video is we need big change on defense. Gostisbehere is horrible. Like one game, but we weren't saying that when Ghost was
doing well, right?
Yeah, he scored 2 goals in 2 games, right. And right.
Listen, there is a level to say, hey, look, we're pretty good D, but we're not great. I would love to see a legit top pairing come in here and take us to the next level. That is a great statement. Nobody would deny that. Yeah. But that's why we had Niskin in here. We get it.
And there are guys right now that are definitely viable for that spot, and they can go out and get.
Yes, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But again, to shit on what you do have because it's not exactly what you need, it doesn't make any sense.
It's because there's unrealistic. I mean, you said this to me many times, and I catch on because there's so many unrealistic expectations that everybody thinks. It's like you see it with Patrick, you see it with all these other guys.
And I do want to talk about Patrick too. Actually, go ahead.
Like Voracek, for example, could have a bad game, right? And everybody talks about trading him. And all this stuff that he doesn't shoot enough and everything like that. Drew isn't a good leader somehow because everybody knows what happens in the locker room.
Yeah.
Konechny doesn't do anything.
Never heard a single player ever say anything negative about Drew ever.
Exactly. I mean, I don't understand what it is with these people. They make it like that like they know everything. And I just love that there's always that old gripe that like because this team hasn't won a Stanley Cup, it's somehow Claude Giroux's fault. Because the management problems they had for almost a decade is Claude Giroux's fault. Just because he wears a letter on his jersey.
Actually, right? I would make this case if people really want to go into that route of the captaincy. I have watched Mike Richards get destroyed, Eric Lindros, Chris Pronger, Jason Smith. Should I continue? How many Flyers captains have I seen crumble? Eric Desjardins give it away. Keith Primo's head injuries crumble under the weight of being a captain, or have career-ending injuries. There is only one that I've seen so far that not only that has thrived under all the mediocrity, the tension, and all the nonsense, and then has a 102-point season later in his career, and probably will have another monster season that people don't want to admit will happen.
No, because apparently he's still on the decline just because he hit 30.
And he's still wearing the C.
Right. Again, because since 12-13, he's the captain. And then there's always the argument, what has he done in the playoffs? He carried them to the playoffs.
Isn't he in the top 10 for points per game in the playoffs for the past decade?
He's a top 10 player from the 2010s.
Yeah.
Top 10.
There you go.
Easily.
Yeah. So
I don't really know what to say anymore because I have this argument with my dad every time they lose a game. Every time it's always, he needs to get rid of it. They need to get rid of the same C and this and that. I'm like, Dad, they lost.
Well, here's the let's be a devil's advocate for ourselves here, since we're kind of preaching the opposite way. There is a point to demanding of leadership, right? And that's where, like I was just saying with ownership in Buffalo, at a certain point, you're like, hey guys, you're in charge. Why does this keep happening? You know what I mean? Now, I think people look at Giroux as you're in charge. The problem is he's actually not in charge.
No, and that's
not what a captain is. And as much as I understand why, and maybe there are better captains in the league. I mean, I'm not saying he's the best captain in the league. That's really hard to define.
He's always been known as a captain that isn't like, they're not like as vocal, Well,
like
you can be a soft-spoken captain,
But we really don't know what he's like. I doubt he's soft-spoken.
Yeah, exactly.
From what I understand about G, he's a joke. He makes a lot of jokes.
Right.
If I had to guess about Giroux, is he's probably very loving. I know that sounds weird, but my guess he's probably very nice to his fellow. He probably competes with them very hard, but is also very forgiving. And I think maybe that's why people jump on him, because you look at other captains that are less forgiving, and some people like that. I would say probably not. And I say the right combination with him and AV, I think is very good, because AV is pretty strict. He loves Giroux. He respects Giroux, right? Respects his work ethic.
AV probably doesn't scream much either.
So he's the bridge. And then I think that's why you want, maybe you do want to add some leadership, but you always want to add leadership.
They have 5 guys in their leadership core.
They added Chicago has Jonathan Taves, who's a fantastic leader. They have Duncan Keith, fantastic leader, and they still went out and traded for Kimmo Timonen.
Yeah. Okay. I'm thinking now they have the
back in the day. I just mean back in the day when they won a cup, they went out and got leadership. They didn't even need it. They barely used Timonen.
Yeah, he played 6 games that year?
Dude, he played 5 minutes in some of the playoff games. And I mean that literally. This was our top defenseman. That's how bad our team was that year.
Yeah.
He still was our top defenseman when we traded him.
I remember that year. I had season tickets. I was in attendance for a lot of those games where they got smoked.
Yeah, and I love Timonen. I mean,
Timonen was one of my favorite players. I cried when they traded him because you know why? Because I was out somewhere the night before. They had a game that Saturday night against the Rangers. I remember it perfectly. And I'm in the car. It's like 9:00 at night, and they traded him to Chicago. And he had blood clots that year. He was supposed to be in the lineup.
Oh, I remember.
Yeah.
I remember the blood clots.
I wanted to see him so bad.
He's such a savage, man. What an incredible hockey player.
I know.
I loved him.
Yeah. Have you ever heard the story about when he said he went to Chicago and there's a picture of Kane scoring against the Flyers in 2010, and he says that like he wishes they would have been able to do that in 10.
Yeah, that team, man, they came close.
I know.
I would say this is a deeper team. This team is. I'm going to say it right now because we were talking about. This team is capable of winning a Stanley Cup. I don't care what you read on Twitter. I don't care. I've honestly, my brain has come to the point where I hear all this stuff and I just shut down because I hear it every year. It never turns out to be true. I hear all of this stuff all the time, and nobody's ever right, ever, about anything. In fact, I would argue most of us weren't right about Farabee, but at least I said Farabee. Right now, I'm telling you again, Cam York. How many people have denied that? I'm telling you right now, Cam York.
Yeah,
he's too young. He's redheaded. Whatever. Come up with all the excuses you want for him. I still think he's coming to the NHL. And notice how I talk positive. I know people don't like that so much.
After I saw him in the World Juniors, I said it.
I mean, I can shit on players too and tell you what players I think are out. I told you last year where I thought if JVR continued to play the way he was playing, he would not be in the NHL.
He barely was in the playoffs.
I think he realized it. And that's why we see the JVR we see today. But I never gave up on JVR. It's important. No. Do not give up.
That's I've been saying the same thing since Ghost. I'm like, there's no reason to.
Why give up on him?
No, that's just stupid. But I said it. I said the team is not putting him in the position to succeed. Yes, they're putting him in a bad spot, and that's what they did last year. If Ghost makes that play last year, he's benched for next.
He's benched. He's benched the next game.
Yeah, he's benched. Like,
and it's interesting. I wonder if they realize that themselves too. Or I do go back to the fact that maybe he really was injured, and they just don't tell us. And there's nights where like, yo, Ghost, you're looking slow, dude. I'm gonna sit you out because you're not skating well. And we don't know. We're not in practice. Yeah. We don't know what he feels. And again,
because we only get so much of availability and everything, and because the couple minutes they talk after practice is
okay. And I'm going to go back to a mistake that I made, right? I had Appleyard on here a while back. He brought up Ghost Provorov, and I was like, hey, I love it. I was like, I want to see it for sure. But I was like, I doubt it. Because I'm like, why would they jump from not playing him? Too. But what I said, I was like, if they're not playing him, why would they jump to the next year to all of a sudden play him in the top pairing? Logically, it doesn't make sense unless
he was hurt. That's the thing.
Because and they're willing to give him benefit of the doubt.
I was on a live stream. I said this to you earlier. I was on a live stream this morning, and the guy said, if Ghost is going from in and out of your lineup last year to top pairing this year, that shows that there's something wrong with your defense. Like, no, that's irrelevant. That means nothing. Yes. That doesn't mean anything. What that means is that he was either A, injured, B, they have more confidence in him, or he just worked his ass off in the off season and everything.
Why is that impossible?
To use him more.
Well, why is it impossible to people that players rebound? It happens all the time. It literally happens from season to season.
Like, you can't have a bad season.
Matt Niskanen had a mediocre season before he came here. Mm-hmm. Everybody gave up on him.
Probably his worst season of his career, probably. And he comes here and gave up on him. Insane. Yeah. Because everybody said the Flyers lost the trade when it happened.
Yeah. Oh, my God, dude. That one hurt my brain, man.
I had this one guy comment like it looked like a whole book chapter on my comments. I had to hit the read more 4 times where I was like, this whole thing about how it sucked. And I never answered it. I was like, you know what? I'm going to wait until after the season and go back. And I said, well, this comment didn't age well. Like responding to it. And the guy answered in like 0.2 seconds and sent this whole thing about how, that I was wrong and everything. I'm like, you were wrong. I'm like, I'm just making fun of you because you were wrong. And it was funny. Like, you put this whole thing about how breaking down the numbers and the contract and how Niskanen would have been bad and all this stuff. And he was fine. He was perfect.
Yes. And again, we'll talk about Tom Brady. Again, did people think Tom Brady was capable of doing what he was doing? No. He doesn't care. He doesn't care if you think he's capable. I'll tell you that much. No matter how much you tell him that. In fact, I'd argue he probably uses it as fuel at this point. Mm-hmm. So, like, I'm looking for that. Like, I assume that these guys are athletes, not average people.
With Michael Jordan.
Yes. Now, not every athlete has that level of intensity built into them. But when I see a guy like Ghost come in and light the world on fire, and people can try to diminish it to one good season, but it definitely wasn't. It was 3. I mean, this one, he's starting to have a good season this year as well. So all of a sudden that narrative is starting to go away. So not everybody panic.
Yeah.
So, over time, I can't look at something like that, see struggles, struggling in a team as well, not just him, and then go, yeah, I'm done with him. It's so hard. I can't do it because I've seen so many stories where the player turns it around, or I see a player or I see a team panic because we were just talking about Nashville today. They traded Seth Jones. Okay. Mm-hmm. Was he at minus 26 or whatever the year before he got traded or something like that? I think he was playing better the season of, but the season before that, I think he had a kind of a really low statistic year. They didn't think he would be a number one guy. They went out. Yeah, please. They went out. They trade for what they think is a number one center who's not a number one center. No, and again, a panic move. a panic move that they thought would put him over the hump, and now they need a number one defenseman like Seth Jones.
Minus 23 in his first year, and then he played 3 more years, or 2 more years, excuse me, with Nashville. He's plus 3 the next year, and then minus 5. First year in Columbus, he was minus 9, and then he's been plus ever since. But this year,
at least we know 10. What he is. Yeah. At least we know what he was.
Yeah,
we know what he was. At that time, we know what he was.
Yeah,
and like Seth Jones, he can't get better. There's no way Seth Jones could end up being the best defenseman in the league, right?
No.
It's not possible.
He's definitely top 20.
Yeah,
easily.
But Provorov might hit top 50 at one point. We'll see. If he can ever really be a true defenseman in this league.
Because remember, he's not a true number one defenseman.
Well, all defensemen play 25 to 30 minutes.
I think literally for like a year and a half, maybe 2 years, I never thought to myself that Provorov would not be a number one defenseman.
Well,
if that thought crosses my mind,
think about
I would literally just stop watching hockey. I'm like, what am I thinking to myself?
Well, think about all the defensemen that play 25 minutes a night. Dude, and plus, think about the plethora of
22 minutes his rookie year.
Yeah, think about the plethora of people. Yeah, but even now, even last year, think about all of the defensemen who are capable of doing that. It's all 6 of them.
It's the same thing with the Quinn Hughes and Kel McCarr argument. How they're apparently quote unquote better than Provorov.
And then when they struggle, people will turn on them too. Because they're definitely going to struggle.
Vancouver is literally one of the worst teams in the league.
Yeah, especially Quinn Hughes because his team's not that good. Makar's got a great team around him. He'll continue to prosper, just like Provorov and Sanheim and Myers. It's why these guys look good because they have support.
Yeah, I love how everybody like rants and raves over the Canucks farm system and everything, and it's like for years they've been saying, "Oh, Vancouver's gonna be deadly one day."
It's because it's Canada. They should honestly, they should be better than they are, in my opinion.
They should. With that team. They improved from last year, and they were a second round game 17.
And so did a lot of those teams improved, and I would say that division overall is better. I don't want to get into like a game of like Toronto is really not good because their team, because that's not true. I do think Toronto is good. I think they're capable of winning a cup. I just don't think they're experiencing the level of competition that other teams are. For instance, nobody from that division would make the playoffs in our division. It wouldn't happen. They would all be below in the division.
I think Toronto probably would.
Only Toronto. That's what I meant. I'm sorry. Outside of Toronto, that's the only team.
It'd probably only be a 3 or 4 though.
I would argue the Flyers, the Capitals, the Bruins, the Islanders, and even the Penguins could all be top of that division without Toronto being there, and even with. So that's how I kind of see it. It's just a larger plethora of talented teams in our division versus theirs. They have some good talent. It's not, I don't think of it as like a garbage division. We shouldn't say that because it's not true.
Because it has some of the best players in the world there.
Exactly.
Like David Draisaitl. They have some of the best goalies.
Right. But they're the depth
Price,
of the teams.
Hellebuck.
They're not contender teams.
No.
Right?
And none of them have
they're
the
all
depth
bubbles.
like Toronto does. Toronto has, they have Joe Thornton.
Simmons.
Yeah,
they got a bunch of depth. Yeah.
Well, Simmons is hurt right now.
But they're good. They're a good team. Look, they're a good team.
Yeah.
They should be. People should be worried about playing them. They're a good team. They're going to cause problems for teams. They have everything. They don't have weaknesses. So, All right. I do want to talk about Patrick real quick, though. I talked to you about the phone. I want to say this on the podcast so I have some time to talk about it. I was actually thinking about making a video specific about it, but I don't know if people care enough about this one thing. But I want to talk about Patrick because I know that people are like giving up on him and stuff like that. And I wanted to point something out to people that I don't think that they're aware of. I don't think they care about it, but it won't help them not to care about it. It's just the reality. The guy's conditioning level is not where it needs to be. It's not his fault. That's what happens when you miss a lot of time. It's not going to catch up to the other players in the amount of time he's had. It's impossible.
It's the same thing with Lindblom, too.
Exactly. It's literally impossible. And yes, we can include Lindblom in this conversation, but people don't be ripping on him. They don't really rip on Lindblom the same way. That's why I'm kind of talking about Patrick.
Yeah, right.
If you watch Patrick shifts, he is usually the best person on the ice in the first half. And then by the second half of the shift, he's gassed. He's usually the first one off the ice. This kid has an immense amount of talent, and he does not have the conditioning to play to his level right now. It's why he got put on the right wing to begin with. That's why they're doing that. They're trying to give him the edge.
Yeah.
He can't skate. Right. Because he can't skate an entire minute on the ice. He loses. So he'll make a move. He'll make a really nice move, make a really nice play. And then when he needs that second burst, he doesn't have it like the other guys.
He did that a lot when I noticed him in the scrimmages in Winnipeg. It seemed like a lot of the time he was gassed for a good amount of that.
Right.
After.
And again, the reality of missing all that time, it's literally impossible for him to catch people. And you have to realize he also spent the offseason waiting it out and slowly working back in.
And with COVID and everything, who knows what he did training-wise. And
conditioning is humongous, especially for kids in development. Look at Joel Farabee, for instance, who played all the way through, had no health problems, right? Continued. Look at the progress. That is not that coincidental. Patrick has not had that. Lindblom has not had that. Do not expect a breakout season at this point unless his conditioning catches up, which realistically will either take till the end of the year or next season where he has a real off season. So all these people are panicking and all that.
There's no reason
panic to and don't listen to people. People wanted to trade Sean Couturier. I remember Brayden Schenn's not worth a bag of pucks, yet he still has a Stanley Cup, and we ended up with Frost and Farabee. So he clearly wasn't worth a bag of pucks, right? My dad, as well, rest in peace, wanted to trade Couturier. He gave up on patience for Couturier. Everybody did. And I remember, trust me, just because people pretend like they didn't at the time, I very much remember what people said about it. He's a third-line center. I'll find the podcast episodes for you guys if you want. I didn't say that. I never called him a third-line center. Other people did.
I was really young, so I was really more of a fan. I honestly,
it's understandable to do so.
There was part of me that had feelings that the 14-15 team could win a Stanley Cup.
Well, look,
just to put that in a little bit of perspective.
It's understandable to do that, and I do that to an extent. I'm not infallible.
Yeah.
But people are pretending like they know what a player is when they're in their development stages. They're pretending like their development stages end in their mid-20s. Yes. There's no evidence of this.
So stupid.
Scott Lawton. Somebody tell me Scott Lawton doesn't keep getting better.
The last 2 years he's had career numbers.
You just wait until he hits 30. You thought Niskanen was good? He was his best at 30 plus.
Mm-hmm. Jake's been consistent with 60, 55, 60, 65 points since 13, 14.
Not every player peaks at 22, 23, 24. Most do not.
You've seen it, and the reason I think is because you're seeing it a lot now with all the young guys and coming into the league.
Well, it's a mistake that they started preaching everybody. This is a young man's league, and it is not. The only reason it's a young man's league because there's a salary cap, and it's too difficult to hire vets. But you see, there are vets. There are very good vets that people want to hire. They have to pay them $1 million. Back in the day, they wouldn't have accepted these contracts. Mm-hmm. This is new. It's not a young man's game. This is a money game.
Yeah.
And veterans usually play.
It's a business.
Yeah, hell yeah.
It's not I don't know. It's nuts.
Yeah. All right, so let's move on. I preached enough on that one. All right, let's talk about the lines real quick. Let's talk about maybe an adjustment for next week. Top line, we have Farabee. Oh, let me go left first. JVR, Couturier, Farabee. I'm going to say my lines, right? Because we don't really know what they're going to be. I'm going to guess they'll go with G, Hayes. I'll throw out Voracek on there. And then the third line will do Patrick, Lindblom, Konechny. Fourth line will be Raffle, Lawton, and NAK. I'm not married to that. And Chris, you want to say your lines and your offensive lines, and I'm pretty sure I wouldn't disagree with them.
Yeah, I would still keep that first line together. JVR, Coots, Farabee. My second line.
I don't know how you split them up.
Yeah, exactly. I'd go G, Patrick, and Voracek, Lindblom, Hayes, Konechny. And then your fourth line still Raffle, Lawton, and Albie Kubel.
Yeah, and I like that flip of Hayes and Patrick because you get a little bit more youth mixed with depth.
And if it doesn't work,
depth.
Change it.
Flip them. You can always flip a winger as well, right? You can always move TK up and drop Voracek down, do Hayes, Voracek, and Lindblom, and do TK. And again, they've tried this in the past, right? TK, Patrick, and Giroux. That could be a combination as well. We don't know what's going to happen, but I can tell you what, that top nine is sick. So I don't want to panic. We don't need to trade anybody. We need to play better as a team. I need to not see second periods like that. That was a lapse.
Yes.
That wasn't a talent issue.
Again, they don't have a talent issue. This team doesn't have a talent issue.
Unfortunately, they don't. We can't blame it on talent anymore. No more excuses. Mm-hmm. And I understand why people raise their expectations. That's fine. But also perspective for you, and we talked about this earlier, they're doing the best they've done in over a decade. So anybody who's coming to tell you, oh, they're not a playoff team, then what was last year when they started terrible and they were a playoff team?
Again, we didn't even know what last year's team was until game 60.
Appreciate a decent start. Okay, you don't need to say it's the greatest start ever.
We're 5-5-1 last year.
We're one of the best teams in the league in the beginning of the season. When's the last time you guys could say that?
This is one of their best starts since 2004, I think.
Long enough that the average person.
It's the Lindros era.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Longest that most of us can't remember. And again, it's not how you start; it's how you finish. But I don't expect them to get worse as the season goes on here. No. In fact, we can see they're getting better.
Yeah.
Just because they have a bad game, it's okay. They also beat the Penguins earlier
Buffalo
with Crosby.
You know, I didn't understand that either. Just because they played the Sabres, that means that they're not a good team. What does that even mean? You're playing the same 7 teams all year. Like, I don't even understand.
I mean, it's like making but you can start doing that to Boston. They beat a bunch of bad teams. Again, this is all rationalization. This is stuff like I can't even listen to anymore. My brain doesn't even hear it anymore. So let's go real quick here to the D. We'll go. I'll keep the top pairing the same. I'm still with it. I like Sanheim Braun. I'm not necessarily opposed to it.
I think it's looked fine the last few games. I think Braun's looked really good since coming back, and Sanheim gels well with Braun.
Yeah, and I don't think Myers necessarily played that great. So I'm harping on him in the top pairing, but I do want him to play a little bit better as well.
Yeah. If I were to make a switch, I'd put Gus with Myers.
Yeah, I think that I honestly think because of Ghost resurgence, they just don't see as much of a value. Because like we can put Ghost on the power play and he's better at 5-on-5.
Then why did they sign him?
Because he's insurance for Ghost. They didn't know Ghost was going to do what he's doing.
Well, they obviously had to have a plan on using him then, right?
Well, I think they were looking. I think, I'll be honest with you, I don't think they knew how bad defensively Gustafsson is. He's not that bad.
That's actually good.
He's not that bad. He's just look. They played Robert Hagel yesterday for a reason. They want physicality. This team, there's no reason that you can't look at the size of this team and say, "Oh, you need another big guy in here to make them physical." It's an intensity.
They're like one of the best cycle teams in the league.
Yeah, when they're intense, they're fantastic. But again, the D got beat on intensity. That's why Robert Hague's in the lineup, because they're getting pushed around a little bit around the net. And Lance Green brought that up last time he was on this podcast. He nailed it, in my opinion. He nailed it. We saw the Rangers score goals on us that way. It's why Phil Myers was benched, in my opinion. He got pushed around his own net. You're 6'5", dude.
It's the same thing with Sanheim.
And again,
6'4". Use your body.
Well, here's what I want to say to people.
Those two would play so much off the puck at times.
Here's what I want to. Well, here's what I want to say to people. People are going to be like, "Oh yeah, well they're already good. They're already good." This is not what these defensemen are. So add 2-3 years of maturity and man strength, and some failures, some fighting to Phil Myers and Sanheim, and there comes the intensity, which naturally happens as you get older and more confident. So that stuff will happen to their game naturally. This is why you want veterans in there, which is probably why they're playing Braun with Sanheim. But again, I trust they'll get out of it. But that's the weakness. That's why the missing of Niskanen is so crucial. Niskanen was very intense on the ice. Never got pushed around by anybody, ever.
I think one issue that you're seeing too is that they literally played 10 straight games with 6 different
pairings.
6. Yeah.
Combinations.
Yeah.
Wild, dude.
That's not normal. Like
nothing about
played last season. We literally played a full season with the same pairings.
Right.
You played Provy, Niskanen, Sanheim, Myers. Your top 4 was the same, unless there was injury involved,
right,
or suspension or something.
Right.
Same thing. It was the same thing. It's a different year. You got to give it time. That's why all these other teams look so good and some look like shit. Like Dallas, for example, why do you think they're an eighth? They've played 15 games. Where Chicago, on the other hand, played like, 23, 24? No wonder why they're going to have more points. And like, there's some teams that are in front of Chicago that have played less games and still have more points.
Yeah.
So I think that kind of shows you that the Hawks really ain't that good of a team. It's just they're kind of getting guys at the right time.
And again, these divisions, everything's screwy this year. So I don't know. I mean, I'm nowhere near panic mode. All right, no. I got one more comment here to say, and then I want to go to the trade rumor thing. I want to bring this up, and I brought this up to you slightly before this. I'm going to make an early statement right now, and I'm going to say it now because I think it's important to say now before other people say it, because they'll probably say it in the future and they'll pretend like they said it first, but they didn't. And I'm going to say it here right now because it's going to sound stupid to people, and that's why I'm saying it to you. Travis Konechny needs to start being on the penalty kill, and it doesn't have to happen today. He's not the best defensive player. But he needs to get more engaged. We need to stop pretending like he's a liability because he's not. We need to remove that element from his game, and we need to start slowly converting him into a Marchand type player who is a very good two-way player who you can play on the PK. All of Konechny's skill sets, from his ability to strip the puck, his ability to skate up the wing, to shoot, to play make, to be physical, to be bigger than his size allows him to be. All of those skill sets are valuable on the PK. If he is able to be combined with somebody like Hayes, who's got size, or Couturier, who has size, I am looking for a guy who can convert defense into offense. I think Konechny has that potential. I'm not saying I'm in a rush to do it. I also think Patrick belongs on the PK long term, and obviously Farabee, who's already doing it. This kid is incredible. But I do think it's time to start talking about it to some degree and probably next season implementing it. I'm probably ahead of the coaching staff, but if it doesn't happen next year, it's going to happen, and not to do it, I think, is a mistake because we don't want to create a one-dimensional elite player with his skill set. His skill sets are built to be a two-way player if we bring it out of him. That's what I want to say.
No, I mean, I think I agree. I think honestly, I think for the most part, his defensive game's got a lot better. One thing I always criticize him for in the 18-19 season when they weren't too hot was defensively, he looked lost half the time.
Sure.
Like he looked like he had no idea what he was doing in the zone. The next year looked a lot better. It looked like he'd pick up his head, find a pass, get out of the zone, chip it by, and skate. And he was, the team's lone all-star last year. He was fantastic. But there was a comment on Twitter last night. What the hell happened to TK? Are you kidding me? It's his first game back. Did you expect him to come in and, score 6 goals or
well,
what?
that's kind of why I'm saying what I'm saying. I want him more engaged. I don't want him to feel like he only plays when the team is on the power play or only team plays in the offensive zone. I want him to recognize that he is a two-way player.
Yeah.
And I want him to start recognizing how good
he started to. Like a two-way player though, but they can mold him into one.
It's not even molding. You don't need him to be a defensive forward. I need a scoring threat on the PK. I need a scoring threat on the PK. We haven't had that in a long time. He is perfect for that.
Isn't that Hayes?
I guess he's a center. He's got defensive responsibilities. Same with Couturier. Sure, he's great. He's doing great.
He was short-handed goals last year.
Yeah. I don't know if Hayes is necessarily the guy I would put him with. I was actually thinking Couturier or even Patrick. Patrick Konechny. And again, I'm projecting down the line here. I'm projecting them also to be more veteran at the time, not today.
Yeah, right.
Today, I recognize this would not work, and I would not, the way our PK is playing, I would not put TK on there today.
No.
I would wait till our TKs.
Make it even worse.
Right. I would wait till TKs
improve. That's just how it is.
Yeah. And I'm not saying to put him out there in like the worst case scenarios where no. I'm saying that he's a player who can convert defense into offense. He has all those skill set innately built into his body. He has those skills already today. So his ability to back check and strip the puck, he's one of the best I've seen in a Flyers uniform in a long time, actually.
Patrick, you're talking?
Patrick, actually, now you're saying Patrick, yes, for sure. I meant TK last year.
Oh, okay.
His ability to back check, was the game changer of his career, in my opinion. It's what made him a top line winger last year. If we can do that on the PK, and again, he has to back check, right? If he's going to take these opportunities up, he's got to be fast enough to get back. I believe he is this player. So if I can put him with somebody to try to get an offensive spark on a PK, especially if playing well, I would like to see him. I would like to see him get more engaged on defense because I think it'll make him better overall. Again, I'm kind of being preachy and projecting here, but I'm thinking a year, 2 years down the line to start getting him in on the penalty kill and not just assume he's never going to be a good two-way player because I don't think that's the case.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think for the most part, I think if they can use Patrick too, because I think like recently
they will be using him.
And I think last few games, his defensive games been really good. But the amount of times I've caught myself saying like, nice play Patrick or nice back check or something, it's been at least a handful of times.
Yeah, they can't play him 19 minutes if they wanted to.
No,
he can't do it. That's what I'm trying to say. The guy can't do it. They wish he could do it. He can't do it. Mm-hmm. He's not there. I wish he could do it. He wishes he could do it. You can see and again, you guys can try to call me out. Watch him on those shifts. He is by far the first one off the ice every single time. Mm-hmm. It's like
watch for it next game.
Yeah, you'll see it. It'll be very evident to you that his shifts are shorter than everybody else's.
They seem a lot shorter, and I noticed it in the Winnipeg scrimmages when I would watch some of those. Like he didn't.
Yeah, you were tight on that. Yep.
But if he literally did everything if he was out there. But the shift was so short that at times it didn't really seem like whatever he did mattered because it was so short,
And to give people an example, the reason I speak this confidently about it, and again, I'm not an expert, but I do pay attention to physical fitness. If you guys watch the stuff, I do take this stuff seriously. Yeah. I converted to running. I've started running a lot. I run like 5-6 days a week at this point, several miles. I can't get my endurance up overnight. It takes me weeks. It takes weeks to make incremental changes. So to actually see Patrick get to the point of these other guys who have also been working their butt off without the break, to expect them to catch up, it's just unrealistic. And it's not going to happen. If it does happen, if his offense jumps, he's ahead of schedule. Like take that as he's probably going to be even better next year. Not this is what he is. Because nobody is what they are, especially in their
21
mid-20s.
He is what he is.
Even by their mid-20s. Dude, I'm 33 years old, man. You are not what you are in your 20s. I'm sorry. I don't know what people are, even physically, I'm in the best shape of my life by far. And that's not for everybody, but there is no one rule. Some people are in better shape in their 30s. Some people are in better shape in their 20s. Depends on what you do with your body, how you eat, how you sleep, how you take care of it. Today, modern science takes everything to different stories. You can see a guy have one bad year, change his whole workout out, and then have a better year, which is what we're watching with JVR, who clearly, he's in the best shape of his life.
A lot of guys, too, that there's guys that change things they eat. And
Voracek had his breakout year. Number one comment, they said, what was the big difference between this year and your previous season? He said, I stopped eating my mother's cooking. He's joking, but he's serious.
Yeah.
The joke is that he eliminated stuff from his diet and he probably upped his workouts. By the way, he works out with Chris Letang, or at least he used to. At the time he made that jump, it was with Chris Letang. He was working out
14, 15?
Yeah. It was right. I remember watching videos of him working out with Letang back in the day.
Yeah.
Letang is an exceptional player. Yeah. All right. So last topic of the night, and we'll end on this because we're pretty far over. Ekholm. Trade rumors going around. Nashville, you were at the game actually, so people weren't aware. You were there representing Flyers Nitty Gritty at the Phantoms game. There were Nashville scouts there, right? Yeah. From my understanding. I know you were sitting with Tony.
Yeah, I sat next to Tony.
Yeah, give him the rundown. Actually, yeah. Why don't you take you?
Yeah. So I noticed it walking to the bathroom actually because that's where the scouts were on that side, and the bathroom was right there. And I'm walking down the hallway, and there was a couple scouts there. There was 3. I believe it was Arizona. I know Vancouver, and then Nashville. I think Arizona was the other one. But I know Vancouver and Nashville because I saw someone with a Canucks mask, with a COVID mask. And I was kind of thinking about it. I was like, I didn't really think anything of it. And I sit down, and Tony was looking at it too. He's like, "There's Predator scouts here." I'm like, "Yeah, yeah." And then he's like, "Yeah, Ekholm." I'm like, "Oh, that makes sense." So I'm thinking, they definitely were looking at some of the defensemen the Phantoms had, because their deep pairs that one night were Zamula with Hochberg, Wiley was in, Logan Day, Millman, and Pouliot.
Who was with Wiley?
Pouliot.
Oh, Pouliot. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That was the top pairing then.
No, Zamula Hochberg was top.
Oh,
pairing.
they were really.
It was Zamula Hochberg, Wiley, Pouliot, and then Logan Day and Max Willman. Or
no,
Willman. Sorry.
Yeah. Man, I love that. I love hearing that. What an interesting AHL year. So, but let's talk about this. So Ekholm's at the game. I'm sorry. Scouts are at the game. We know that Matthias Ekholm's name has been thrown around. Nashville obviously is not having a good season. Doesn't mean that they're going to have a bad season overall. We were talking about this earlier. They have enough talent to compete. I don't think they're going to go into a full rebuild, but they're probably looking to create a spark. They're trying to make a change. Yeah, they're trying to retool. They have talent. They can move. They have some young talent they can move around if they wanted to. But Matthias Ekholm, I think you said, what was it, 3.75 over the next 2 years, Chris?
I looked at it. I was actually just about to look that up.
Okay, I think that's what you said to me earlier. So again, those numbers are absolutely feasible. But because it's feasible, those numbers are great. I believe no trade clause also not included. Sorry, confirm that. Once that's confirmed, though, if you look at those scenarios, right, 2 years, 2.75, this is a contract that most teams would die for a player like Ekholm, right?
Especially now, so.
What is it?
Especially now with the cap and everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so next two, he's got one more year after this year, 3.75, unrestricted free agent after, and there is no trade clause or no movement clause, so there's nothing on it. It's just years at 3.
Yeah, and I think it's obvious to Nashville that he's at risk of getting taken as well, right? So
from Pierre LeBrun, they only have 3 untouchables. It's Rene, Yossi, and Ellis.
Yeah, but I'm just talking about of their D, right? If you look at their D, he's probably not the one getting protected. It's going to be a young D and then those top 2 guys, Ellis and Yossi, right? And he's probably getting plucked.
They got Ekholm. They got Fabro.
They got a young guy. The young guy is escaping my name right now. I'll look him up. But they're not protecting Ekholm. I know that they're not. No. So they need to move that contract to some degree. But it's, they don't have to. They can risk it, right? But it reduces the value a little bit. So let's think about this. We know they're going to want a defenseman. We talked about this earlier. I think you said Hochberg, right? I think they'll probably want Wiley. But Hochberg is absolutely possible, and he's already a pro. He's also Swedish. But we know that won't get it done. So it's going to be a deep prospect, maybe a first-round pick, at the very least a second-round pick, because Ekholm is a good defenseman. And then probably
Kasha earlier.
Yeah, maybe David Kasha, somebody like that included as well. I mean, we'd have to give to get for Ekholm, and I don't even know if that's enough, to be honest.
It's going to be the first, though. But Jamie did bring up a good point to me. He said that first might not do it, though, because it's a late pick.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. I don't know exactly what the value is for Ekholm, because competition will be high because people can fit him on the cap.
If they get that pick, say they trade the first, it's most likely a guy that is going to take a year or two. Most likely. Now, they could find a gem, when there's been guys that have gone late, like Pasternak, for example, went 25th, and, he's one of the best players in the league.
It depends on what their motive is. Okay, if they're still competing for a cup and we're right, then they might want a player. We brought up Robert Haig. He's probably not good enough necessarily, but with a package, there might be a first in Haig for Ekholm.
Braun would be like too old or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Ghost?
I wouldn't trade Ghost for Ekholm. I don't. I mean, like,
work.
I think potentially, I think I.
And again, I'm not saying I
don't think it's a bad idea. It could happen. I'm not saying it's a complete no. It's possible. Doesn't seem like it would happen. I would imagine if they're going to move Ekholm, they're going to look for something else. But you never know. I mean, like, Ghost could be a name that they could sell to their fans, and that makes them feel good. But it still leaves them in the same position where they still have a good amount of cap eaten by a defenseman, right? And that defenseman's at risk of getting taken in expansion. So why even trade Ekholm? you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
See, I don't think you would. So I think most likely they're either looking to shed the salary or.
And the other thing is too is, do we know we have enough to get him? Because there's definitely other teams knocking on their.
We do, but do we want to give up?
Exactly.
What it would require.
Are we the team that wants to give up what's acquired is the thing.
I would say we're probably not, because we're not desperate.
I know a couple weeks ago it was the Flyers and Penguins were front running. Those were the two teams.
Yeah, but these are conversations. This trade is probably not happening for, when's the trade deadline again?
April 12th.
April 12th. So we figure if this trade is happening, we got
it's another month and a couple weeks.
Yeah, I was gonna say you got 3 weeks, right?
No, over that 5.
Or you need a 2. No, I'm saying we need a 2-week quarantine, right? So you figure that trade is not happening any earlier than 3 weeks, regardless as it is. So it also
that's the
depends.
Other thing. It's like that's kind of what you risk. Like, I think that might be why a lot of the guys haven't been picked off waivers either, because they still have to quarantine and everything.
Absolutely. Where like Friedman, did Friedman have to quarantine?
I don't think so. Because does that matter if he was in state? Well, that doesn't even make sense.
I don't care. Yeah, maybe not. All right. I think so. Let's just end the Ekholm thing. My thing is, I think Ekholm would be a fantastic compliment. I think he's exactly what we need. Yeah. He is a replacement for Niskanen in a lot of ways. It would be really great. It's like grabbing somebody like Jake Muzzin. Yeah, it's like grabbing a guy like Jake Muzzin, like what Toronto did. It's obviously going to be beneficial. I would be willing to move some pieces for sure, but I'm not moving Myers. I'm not moving. I'm not moving any of these guys. I don't want to move Zamula. I don't really want to move Wiley, but I'd be open to it. I'd be open to moving Högberg, but again, not excited to move any of these guys. I don't even know if it's that necessary. Having said that, I think this is a legitimate team. So if there's an opportunity to make a deal for somebody like Ekholm, and you go into the playoffs with Ekholm, right? Let's say you move, I don't think it's going to be Braun, but let's say you move Haig, which I don't think they really want to do either because he's so close with Lindblom and the whole thing. If you do move him and you bring Ekholm in here, I mean, you look at that D, you're right back to where the Flyers were last year, plus Patrick and Lindblom back, plus Farabee playing better, plus the young youth. I mean, you're looking at
KVR.
Yeah, like you're looking at legit stuff here. So there is a move to be made. I think the Flyers will explore it at all costs.
That's if that continues though with those guys though.
Correct.
We can't just assume that they're Farabee's going to continue that.
Correct. So that's why I was saying, I was like, we'll see. Let's talk in 3 weeks.
Yeah, it's so hard to sit here and say something so positive about the team and something so negative because it's so early. Like I know everybody's like, oh well, it's a shortened year.
Let me say this though, but this is something we have to consider, right? Trading for Ekholm, if it's a good deal, not getting fleeced, is a positive to the players on the roster as well, because you're also saying to them, I recognize how good this team is. Yeah. I'm moving my first round pick. This is a potential roster player for somebody right now, for you guys right now. I believe in this group. So I think no matter what, there's something that's going to happen. No matter what, somebody's being traded to this team. It could be nonsense. It could be Derek Grant
last year, like Grant and Thompson.
Not nonsense, but yeah, it could be a simple move. Honestly, I would bank on that.
Same. But my thing is
another Braun. Sorry, guys.
Maybe a little
Ron Hainsey. No, he's too old. But you know what I mean? A guy like that, I wouldn't be surprised if Flyers just go for a Band-Aid.
Another solid vet.
Go for a Band-Aid. If you listen to Chuck Fletcher, the way he talks about the cap and the issues with the contracts that he has coming up, I don't think he's interested at all in adding another contract, man.
I don't think he is either. Because they are
swapping, but adding.
Yeah. Because the thing is you gotta think about who you're paying here, because you got G coming up after next season.
You can sign him. You can save some money on that G contract, but you're definitely going to pay him $6 million a year for G. You're not signing him for $8 million, but you're going to give him a nice contract, and he's not going anywhere.
Probably anywhere 4 to 6, probably.
He's probably getting 6.
Probably.
He's captain of the team.
You got to consider Hart, who's 6 at least.
7. No. You're right. Actually, no. I don't know if he'll get 6. You can make you can make a case with him.
Well, he's not getting any more than 6. I'll say that.
Well, think about it. You have to say, hey, you didn't even play 50%. You only played 50% of the season. I can only give you $4 million.
Sanheim, who's I believe a UFA.
I think Carter Hart will get 5.5 to 6 for 7 years, 7 years. Something like what Provorov got, somewhere in the middle between Provorov and TK. It's harder for goalies to negotiate than it is for players, because we've seen how many goalies get big contracts and don't live up to them. So the ownership has that leverage. It might not be true. I believe Carter Hart, again, is worth every cent, but we have to negotiate. We have to keep players under the cap.
Right.
But you're right. You're right. There's a lot of stuff to worry about, man. And
you also have Walton. You have Hag.
Yeah.
You have Albie Kubel.
Yeah, who you want to keep. You have the expansion. You're going to lose a good player in expansion.
Oh, yeah. You're losing someone.
We're definitely losing somebody good.
I know. And it could be anybody. Like, I know everybody wants to.
Maybe that's a good reason to go get Ekholm, actually. I'm not thinking about it. I was like, if you know you're going to lose a player.
Add something and try to run now. Like, if you.
That's what I'm saying. You do it now. Do it now. Just like, do it. You know, you're going to lose somebody. Yeah, you're going to lose somebody anyway.
You're losing someone regardless. Regardless of what you do, you are screwed either way. So just go get somebody.
So it would require moving probably a little bit of cap. So I'm just throwing out a scenario, but like, let's say it is a first Robert Haig, because he's got another year in his contract too. So a first Robert Haig and
Pasha?
No, it would be maybe another defenseman. I think it would be probably Hogberg. I think they're asking for Zamula.
Wiley in a first.
I would imagine they're asking for York actually, but they're not going to get York or Zamula. They could probably get. They could get Mason Millman too, but I don't think Flyers want to move Millman either.
Mm-hmm. I think
Hogberg they're open to. I think Hogberg and Wiley they're open to those guys because I think their roles can be replaced.
Maybe
by Millman.
Sign David Bernhardt back and then trade him.
That's a great call. I think they would love or trade Hogberg and sign Bernhardt.
Yeah.
No, that's not happening. Hey, Mark Friedman's gone.
Yeah.
Why Kalynuk didn't get signed?
He's on their tax. No. I think he's on their tax.
Well, I mean, look, if we're going to start,
because he thought he would go there and make the team, and then.
Well, I think he thought he had a better opportunity to make the team there. I didn't think he was NHL ready.
I didn't either.
And let's be honest, he could be buried behind Zamula here for all we know.
And York.
Well, York is not going to. In my opinion, York probably won't play in the NHL. What?
No, I don't think he will either. I think he'll play NHL next year.
Yeah, yeah. Just like the same, I see York as fair, like Farabee and York. Again, it's that crop, that U.S. crop.
The question is though, where would you play him?
York. Well, I would see what expansion does first.
True, yeah. But like, if you had a choice,
bottom pairing
roster,
bottom pairing lefty.
With who? Braun.
Either Braun or Myers.
I think he'd be great with Myers.
I mean, okay, let's name that D. Though I don't think this will be the case next year.
Just for fun.
No, I think Myers would move up in the case, and I think Braun would play with York. He's a younger player. He's smaller.
They still have Braun then for another year since they re-signed him.
Yep, I think that's what would be the case. And then you figure Sanheim and Myers are both older. Myers will get better as the season goes on. Nobody should, and even if he doesn't, he'll be better next year. I'm not really concerned about Myers. He's here to stay. He signed that contract for a reason. It's just people are uncomfortable with Ghost playing top pairing, but he's done it before. He's not a defensive D. That's the problem. It is a problem, man. Our PK is struggling. We don't have a legit shutdown guy outside of Provorov and potentially Sanheim and Myers, who have shown flashes of it, but have not been able to do it on a game-by-game basis. Sanheim more, but not, 80% of games yet. He's getting there, though.
They have been able to have a consistent partner with Provorov.
Yeah. Not for a few years. Rest in peace, Niskanen. All right, let's end it on that note. We're way over. This was a really good one. Chris, give people a shout out where they can follow you, what you're doing. I think you're recording a podcast tonight as well. Let them know.
Yeah, so Twitter is _ Chris Maher. I tweet a bunch of stuff on there. Instagram is FlyersToMan93. YouTube is the same thing. And as you said, co-host of the Florida podcast. We're doing an episode tonight, recapping the game last night against the Penguins with Jason Martinez at 8 o'clock, and that'll be live on the Painted Lines on YouTube, and then also on my YouTube channel too. And then obviously I write for Flyers Nitty too. So thank you, Yariv, for having me back on. I appreciate it.
Always, buddy. Yeah, thank you for coming on. And again, I told people Russ Cohen and Mike Augello from Hockey Buzz were supposed to come on. They had to cancel, unfortunately, last minute. I'll reschedule them in the future. But yeah, Chris, really appreciate you jumping on. It's awesome. Caitlin also, she had to drop last minute too, unfortunately.
Yeah. I know I'm not quite Russ and Mike, but
you're special. You're a
getting
special
there,
boy.
hopefully.
You're a special boy. Don't worry. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. All right. So thank you to everybody for listening. Really appreciate it. I mean, honestly, we see everything, the comments, the likes, and everything. I honestly, I can't be happier. It's been kind of awesome and wild, and the fact that we have access to the games, and I can send Chris and Jamie and I can send all these writers and all these awesome people making all this cool stuff to games. It's been amazing, and it's been amazing that you guys continue to listen. And I'll tell you right now, we're just getting started. For those who, like what you see so far, we're really just getting started. We've only been doing this for a year. I just learned a bunch of stuff. I'm working on a bunch of stuff in the background. If it ever plans out, you guys will find out about it. But yeah, love all the support. So thank you guys so much. Like, subscribe, comment. I try to read all the comments. And we totally appreciate it. Follow me on Wolok. Follow all of our writers. Check out Flyers Nitty Gritty on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook. Definitely check out the audio versions of this too. I never talk about it, but iTunes, Spotify, everything. Give us a rating. It just helps. Any kind of support. If you guys share us out, if you like, comment, give us a thumbs up. All that stuff helps us. And it's like literally, if you want to help us, that stuff helps. Like it's huge. It's amazing. So thank you to everybody who buys stuff as well. And we notice, and it's incredible and so cool to see the logo and stuff. So,
and just one thing too.
Sure, dude.
It was a year the other day, March 1st, when I joined. So it's been amazing, and I can't thank always enough from you, Yariv, with everything, to Jamie and all the other writers. Just thank you, because it's been a blast, and I've never been with a site this long. So it's there's only been a handful, but again, thank you, I appreciate it.
It's awesome, dude, and happy. It only took us 11 months to get you in a game, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we finally did it. All right, well, that's awesome, man. Obviously we're happy to have you as always. All right, well, thank you, everybody. Thank you for listening. Again, like, subscribe, the whole thing, but just overall, thank you so much. I do have Always Level Up. We'll be recording. Fingers crossed next week, but I have Curtis Gabriel coming on. Pretty excited for that one. Ex-Flyer, current San Jose Shark. Get excited. I'm loving this podcast. So thank you again. And remember to always stay gritty.